Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Version 1, a podcast where interesting people come to talk about their creative processes, imposter syndrome, inspiration, failures along the way, and much more. I'm your host, Waverly, and this week I am joined by Jack McGuire. He is a songwriter, composer, and sound designer who produces music under the names Wet Hands, Ranch Hands, and FCTRYDRM. He is a graduate of the Juilliard School of Music and is originally from Ohio. Jack has worked on many different interdisciplinary projects ranging from live scoring new dance pieces, film scores, and immersive theater. His work has been performed all over the world, from Lincoln Center in New York to Scotland, Australia, Germany, and he regularly performs his music at venues and bars throughout the city. I am so excited because Jack and I have been friends for a very long time. He used to be my roommate, which we get into in the episode. So without further ado, here is my interview with Jack McGuire. Hi, Jack. How are you today?
Good.
Thank you so much for coming on my show. Can we just start off with having you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jack McGuire. I do a lot of different things. I make music under the name Wet Hands and Ranch Hands and produce for some other people. I work in theater sometimes. A lot of kind of far-reaching, but I'm a musician and a composer. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm so excited to get into all of that with you. And I just want to get listeners caught up really quick with how we know each other, because we've known each other for several years now. Yeah. And we used to live together. You want to explain?
Yeah, so it was 2020, and I had gone back to live with my parents for a little bit and was looking for a new place to live, and just got reached out to by John, who was masterminding this new apartment for us to all be in. And we had one FaceTime all together with John, Julian, and you and I. And then that was it. And then we were just like, sign the lease, let's go. I remember at the time feeling nervous, because I was like, these are strangers, but everybody seemed cool, and it was just, let's just go for it. It's such a weird time in the world. There was no holding back. Yeah, we all moved in together. It was fucking great. So
yeah. We were roommates for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And then for context, this is the same John that was on episode 1 and the same John I'm dating. That is how we met, in case people think it's a different John if they don't know the story. But yeah, we were all roommates and friends for 2 years, and it was a magical time.
Yeah.
It was very interesting, and we lived in the infamous McKibben lofts.
Yeah, which was so crazy at that time. Just the parties on the roof, constantly. Middle of summer 2020 was nuts time.
Yeah, even though it was a pandemic and obviously a dark time in the world, I do wish I could relive maybe a week in the life.
Yeah, that time was so special. That first summer of us moving in together, because we were just who are these people? We're getting to know each other.
A big appeal for me to live in the McKibben lofts and to have a lot of roommates was because you couldn't go out and be social. And so when I heard of the McKibben lofts, I was like, oh, this is really cool, because there's a built-in community that's quote unquote safe at the time, you know what I mean? Because there weren't any events happening, and sure, mingling with your neighbors was technically not COVID safe, but it was relatively. And I also took that leap of faith where I was like, okay, I'm living with 3 other strangers. I hope they're not murderers. Yeah. Let's see how this works. It ended up being amazing.
Yeah. It was we were, I don't know, lucky or blessed or whatever, that we all just got along so well, so effortlessly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there was this kind of magic to it, like how Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants was, where it was instead of it being 4 women who are very different, it was just 4 people. Yeah. We're all so different, but we all worked and balanced each other out. It was really fun. But
no, it was amazing. I miss that place, and I would just for 1 week, it'd be fun to go back and be at that time period.
Yeah, for sure. So. Jack, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid?
I really vividly remember being in 4th grade and a teacher asking everybody in the class this, and you could just, I raised my hand and I said I wanted to be a comedian. And then,
oh my gosh.
And then the teacher, this is horrible, the teacher was like, so who would go to Jack's comedy show? And one person raised their hand.
That's so mean.
And I was like, I'm not going to do that then. And
wait,
it was
that's traumatizing.
It was pretty heartbreaking at the time.
I can't believe an adult did that to a child.
I think they thought they were funny doing it or something. Or maybe, I remember at the time, I always got, notes on my report cards that I, talked too much in class. So maybe they were just, trying to shut it down or something. But yeah, I was fucked up. But I knew I wanted to be an entertainer. or in some kind of performance role. So I at least took from that, and I was like, okay. It didn't deter me so much that I like shied away from ever wanting to be a performer, because I knew that there was something about that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So.
And at the time, were you taking bass lessons? Had you started that yet?
Yeah, I think that would have been right around the time where I joined the school orchestra, and then I think I might have been playing violin for a year at that point. Then the next year I started playing upright bass.
Yeah. What was it about upright bass that attracted you to it?
Honestly, when I was that age too, like everyone had to start on violin and play 1 year of that. And then like we rented that instrument, and I was like, whatever about it. And then the person who was my music teacher was a bass player, and he said, oh, you could just keep playing that, or I could teach you more like one-on-one if you wanted to do bass. And so I was just, okay, like somebody will give me more time if I like do this thing. So I followed that a little bit. And it was great, because then it was like, yeah, I got like free one-on-one lessons with a bass player through my elementary school. And
That's
it was just
awesome.
like, that's what the orchestra program became for me.
Uh-huh.
So
Did you enjoy orchestra when you were a kid?
like listening to it or like playing in
Like
it.
playing and participating in it, because I
Yeah.
too was an orchestra
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
I played violin, and I had a love-hate relationship with
Yeah.
it, because the orchestra kids all got really close. We were all doing like the before school or the
Yeah.
after school program.
Totally.
And so I made a lot of friends through it, and it became more of a social thing, but I felt that I used to really enjoy playing violin, and then I fell out of love with it because it became a very like intense competitive thing
Yeah.
that I just wanted to enjoy with my friends, and then all of a sudden it was like you have to compete, or you
Yeah.
have to, and so like I had a love-hate relationship. So I'm curious, like, but also I almost quit as a kid, and I'm so glad my parents forced me to continue
Yeah.
through it. So I'm very grateful for the experience as an adult, but in the moment I didn't enjoy it. So that's why I was curious if
Yeah.
as a kid in that moment you were actively enjoying it.
Yeah, I do remember enjoying it like quite a lot. I think I just like I wanted to play something, and my brother was taking guitar lessons, and so I like wanted to be doing something too, or I would try to listen to whatever he was doing and try to play what he was doing. So I just had such a strong desire from the get-go to play music. And so like any opportunity that I got to was fun. And I think that was also the benefit of being the only bass player. There wasn't any competition. It wasn't like anybody else was doing it really. So I just got to be doing my own thing in the corner, which was funny. Yeah, and it was just fun. And I had somebody who like that teacher was like super instrumental in me having a good foundation of playing, because I was like 10 years old and getting really good one-on-one time with a private teacher basically. And that really set me up for kind of the rest of my playing
Yeah, that's
career, or where I am now. Yeah.
And when you were a kid, did you ever dream of being a musician? Or was that not something you were thinking about at the time?
I definitely did, yeah. I think like I said, like in wanting to be some kind of performer, whether it was like the worst comedian ever, or I knew that musician was also a route to it. I guess I wanted to write like funny songs or something.
Like a Weird Al
Yeah,
sort of vibe?
honestly, Weird Al was the first concert that I ever went to, and was like my favorite. I remember having like on a cassette tape that my best friend and I would just sit there and listen to Weird Al like on repeat. So yeah, I think that was it. Like I wanted to be a musician in some way, or just I guess probably just a performer in some way. I'm like a Leo, so it just draws you there. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've always wanted to in some way. I've never thought about doing anything else.
Oh, that's awesome. When you were in high school thinking about college, because you went to school for music at this little school no one's heard of called Juilliard, were you in that time, I'm trying to think of how to ask. I feel like a lot of people go to college and they're applying for majors where your grades are super important and stuff like that, but music it's more about preparing audition pieces, and they probably factor in grades but not as much. Like it matters more about your talent. Like how are you feeling during that time? Because I feel of course there are technical aspects of music that are objective, but in a lot of ways musical talent can be pretty subjective. Do you know what I mean? So like
totally.
What was your mindset like at the time, and how were you thinking about your future?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I don't know. Yeah, like the grades aspect of it, like normal things to think about in school weren't so much there. And even so, I went to Cleveland State for a year before I like transferred school. So in that sort of first round of like auditions, I only took auditions at like school around Cleveland or like around where I grew up, around Oberlin. And at the time, I was just thinking, okay, like I don't really know how I'm going to make a career as a musician, but like my parents want me to go to college and not just do nothing. And so this is the next step. I feel like our age group was like just like pushing people to college no matter what. So like I was like, okay, I'll go somewhere. And I had already started working with the guy at Cleveland State, and he, like my bass teacher there, and he had set me on this track as, okay, you'll go there for a year, then you audition for something bigger in the following year. And like he was telling me, and it was like, yeah, like bigger could mean Juilliard, bigger could mean New England Conservatory, like an East Coast, like big conservatory school. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I like had the gap year in a way. Like I had a buffer year where I just went to Cleveland State. I took a couple classes, just played in orchestra so I could get the lessons for free, get scholarship to just be a student there. So like my senior year, I was pretty like relaxed about things in a way because I knew that I had more time. Like I had this other year that I was going into where I was just going to buckle down and just practice and do nothing else, which was weird because then I also went to Cleveland State with the mindset of I'm not going there to make friends and I'm not going to start my college experience yet because I'm just going there as a placeholder.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't maybe the best headspace to be in because there was also like the mounting pressure of, okay, so also in a year's time, you're going to be taking like really big auditions and we'll see where that gets you. And maybe you do get stuck at Cleveland State or something or like this or that. Not that's a bad school or anything like that, but there was this sort of track that I was getting put on and I was like along for the ride.
That's so cool that your teacher already saw something in you so young and was like, no, like you're going to go somewhere bigger, just get some basic lesson or core credits in and then we're going to send you off. That's incredible that he saw that in you.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. When you were, okay, so yeah, you go to Cleveland State for a year and then you end up going to Juilliard. How was that audition process? Yeah, let's start there. How was that audition process?
Yeah. So like how it works mostly is there's 2 rounds to it. Like in the wintertime, you need to send all these schools like your audition tape, like a pre-recorded round. Like you're not even invited to a live audition yet. It's just that. And even actually before that too, I went out to a couple different schools to take lessons with the teachers. Because that's what my teacher at Cleveland State was. He studied with the same person that I did at Juilliard, so he helped set that up. So I went out to Juilliard to New York for the first time and took a lesson with this guy. I then sent in my audition tape in the winter, and then you get invited for the spring to go back and audition. And like that whole process, like the turning in the videos thing was awful. Like just trying to record and try to get the best thing, because a live audition you can see the people, you can like have some sense of how things are going. It's also accompanied, so you have a pianist playing with you, so you have a little bit of somebody to like make music with. But like the just like solo, here's a recording, and I must have recorded it on my iPhone or something. I don't think I had even a nice camera or anything, so it was just all stressful to just get it right, and you don't want to like mess it up or do something wrong or accidentally not turn it in at the right time, and you're trying to send it out to 5, 6 schools. They all want slightly different things. So that bit was all like stressful. It was just like a lot of prep work. And I remember my teacher watching them after I sent them out and he was like, these are all awful. This is just because I don't know. It is bad, but it is like the school of like tough love and the kind of people that I had studied with. And it only got more intense when I did go and study at Juilliard. That was just the old world way of doing it. But yeah, like once you got over that hurdle and then like you heard back and you're like, okay, you can go audition, you can actually go play in the room. That was like pleasant. You got to drive, like my dad and I just drove to all these places. So mostly the schools were in Boston, Philly, New York, and I had one in Cincinnati. And that was fun. It was like a weird little vacation with my dad. We like drove, stayed at hotels, just woke up and did these auditions. And you saw a lot of the same people like on them, so you started to get to know some people around or people that would be in the world that you're about to jump into. So that was pretty cool. And I definitely felt like stressed at them, but I feel like by that point you knew in a way because I had taken the lesson with that guy and my teacher was vouching for me. There's a whole lot of politics to it where you need to you really just need to know the person in some way. And so I had somebody who was like really, like you said, like he saw something in me and he knew I could do this. So he put his neck out there and vouched for me. And yeah, then a couple weeks after that audition, that teacher at Juilliard called me and told personally and called, and before any of the results were out, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take you as a student.
That's incredible.
Which was cool because I can remember sitting on my couch there, and that was before I heard back from any other school, and that was really the one I had my heart set on. And yeah, he called me and he said, yeah, I want to take you on as my student and go with you from there. So
that's incredible.
yeah.
And that must have been validating because like you're hearing from somebody who's clearly like the top of the top in the music world, and for them to want to work with you, that has to be like so. I can't even imagine that feeling.
Yeah.
That sounds incredible.
It was like I can picture it, and I remember just like my parents looking at me while I was sitting on the couch because I was like, oh, this is him. So we knew it was coming in some way. And I was 18 or 19 at that time, and I was just like, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. And I was from a kind of a small town in Ohio, and like no one I knew had ever done that or had ever gone that far for college, really.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
When you got to Juilliard, were you excited? Were you scared? Were you intimidated? I can imagine because Juilliard is so famous and it has so much like lore and history. What were you feeling when you stepped on campus for the first time for your classes?
Honestly, can I swear? Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
Like, you just feel, I remember you feel like you're like hot shit because you're like, man, this is the biggest thing. Everybody tells you like, oh, this is the acceptance rate, the blah, blah, blah. So you feel really good. And I think they do a good job of bringing you into that environment and just like being really excited for you. Yeah, just the sort of what's like freshman orientation kind of thing was so exciting because you're also like, I lived in Lincoln Center in New York for the first 2 years that I lived in New York, which is like a wild place to live.
Yeah. There's
just one dorm tower off of the Juilliard building, which is just on, you can see the Met Opera from your windows and stuff like that. So yeah, it feels huge. I felt, wow, I'm really going to do something or go somewhere, or I'm a big deal already in some way, like very wide-eyed. And then, yeah, you just start into the school and get settled into it. And it's just interesting. And it was also like, I remember like there was a sort of freshman orientation orchestra where everybody was playing together. I don't know if we even did a concert. I think it was just rehearsals or something. But that was like, I remember playing in that orchestra and being like, wow, I've never played in an orchestra that sounded this good. Because I had played in youth orchestras and outside of school programs and things that were pretty good, but this was like mind-blowing. And I was just like, wow, this is what it can sound like to play in an orchestra. So yeah, just also, it got me excited to be there pretty quickly.
During those early years of your school and your career, did you experience any failures or setbacks during that time?
Yeah. So like the first concert that I played there, I would probably say it was like a big failure in a way, but it was like a big learning moment for me. There's smaller ensembles that you can be a part of at the school too, and they're more like specialized in like contemporary music. You have to play an orchestra, but you don't have to play in those ones. So the first concert that I did was with one of those groups, and usually it's like a lot of grad students because it's like chamber music, so it's really small. So it was like maybe like a 10 or 15 person ensemble, but I was the only bass player. And like none of the other people at the school really wanted to play contemporary music. So everybody just passed on it and then got handed to me, who was like a freshman, a first year student. And I was like, oh yeah, of course I want to play. I'll jump at anything. And I had played some music by that composer in the past and I liked their work. And I was like, okay, so I'll do this. And I like get into the rehearsal and I just could not play the piece. Like it was really difficult music, first off, and I was with a bunch of grad students who were like, had been doing this for 6 years now or whatever, had been in school for a while. And I was just like falling on my face to the point where like the conductor was like yelling at me in the rehearsals. He was like making like the cellist take me and do like sectional works together and stuff like that, which was helpful. And I remember he pulled me into the office after one of the rehearsals and I just cried. And he was just sitting there and he was just like, what, like, why get your shit together? And I was like, I'm trying, but this is like such a, I don't know, it was like a big task. And I think I didn't really know how to play in an ensemble like that yet and things like that. And I remember him just, okay, once he saw like how much emotion I had invested in it or how much like I wanted to be there. Not that I was just like not doing it because I didn't care or because it got handed to me and I was like, oh God, I have to be here. But he saw that I like really wanted to and like I was trying, but it was hard. And then he became somebody that became like pretty instrumental throughout the rest of my time there, who would like check in with me or bring me on to play on concerts because he knew that I like wanted to do that kind of thing. But yeah, it just took like falling on my face in the middle of the rehearsal and everybody just being like watching you get ripped apart by a conductor and just like crying. So yeah, that was the first experience I had there. And then I had to go perform this music too. And it went pretty well in the concert. I turned it around, but it was hard. And I was like, man, I really got to be on top of the practicing and like really learn and understand how to play this music like before I get to the rehearsal. Because like in high school or in other orchestras, you just show up and you learn it when you get there. Totally. And that wasn't how it was going to be. And I learned that really fast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you ever, or did that experience or anything similar to it make you doubt yourself?
I definitely did in that time. And especially because it was like the first experience. So I'm on this, like, I'm riding this high of, I just got here. Like, I feel really good. I'm like the best of the best. And then you fall on your face. And then I remember there was like auditions for the orchestra. Everybody just had to play so they know where they would place you and stuff like that. And I did really well on those. So it's just like balancing all of these things going like right and wrong at the same time. And I was like, what am I doing? What part of this speaks to me? Or I don't know. Yeah, it was just like, what path should I go down? And there was really only one thing they wanted you to do. And that music for that concert was outside of that. And so I was like, okay, maybe I can't really do that. I should just forget about that and focus on this. So I think it was just like trying to figure out what you were even going to do there, how you were going to stand out or find your own voice in it when there was one track they wanted you to go down.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And at that time, had you started writing your own music or were you only performing orchestra pieces or solo pieces?
I had played around with writing songs and stuff when I was in high school. I never really finished anything. I never really took it that seriously, I guess. And yeah, when I got to school, I just dropped all of that stuff. I think that's the part of me that I was like, okay, I see that I need to just focus on this one thing, so I'm not going to think about anything else. I'm just going to do this one track and do it as well as I can. And yeah, I didn't really think about writing music. I didn't really think about doing anything other than playing orchestral bass and just locked into only doing that.
Yeah, because it sounds like you had to be like nose to the grindstone because it was such an intense program that you probably didn't have the time or mental energy to do your own thing.
Yeah. And they didn't want you to. They wanted you to stay on that track. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. After you graduated, what did you do at first?
So the first gig that I ever got, I guess, to make my own music was to do this piece called Solitary, which was produced by this theater company that I still work with now, Dutch Kills Theater Company. I was on a concert with the director's now wife. So we were playing she went to Juilliard also. We went to school together. We were playing on this concert together. And so they like came and found me. They were like looking for a composer to make music for this like physical theater piece. And yeah, so out of school, went into the rehearsal process for that, did some shows of that in the summertime. That was the first like gig that I had. I think I did a couple like artist residencies that summer, maybe. Yeah, some stuff at the Banff Center in Canada, which is really cool. And so then once I got back from that, I was just like, I had some random bass gigs, like I played an opera thing here and there, played some church gigs, and then I got a job at Whole Foods just to make money. And then I also recorded like piano concerts. So I was just like doing like a bunch of random stuff. Because while I was in school too, I did an internship at a music venue called Roulette. That was like basically like an audio engineering kind of crash course. And so I did that for the last year of school or the last 2 years of school. And so then I got some random audio engineering gigs from doing that too. Yeah, like just, I don't know, anything I could do, I guess, to make a little money and stay there. Because I knew I wanted to stay in New York. I didn't want to go home and practice in my parents' house until I got an orchestra job. I wanted to be here. I wanted to live here. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when did you start making your own music and pursuing your career as a musician? Like with your own stuff?
It was all around that time. Like as I was graduating, like I started like toying around with making mostly like electronic music. And that's what I was doing on the concert that they came and found me to do the music for Solitary on. I was like playing some stuff that I had made or playing in a trio that I had put together. We were actually the first, because you have to do so much like chamber music for credit to graduate, and I needed to do like another semester's worth of it. And so we made like a laptop trio where everybody was just playing their computer, and they accepted it as our college credit for it. And we were like the first laptop trio or laptop ensemble to be like Juilliard credit.
That's fun.
Chamber music. So I was already like making stuff. I wasn't really putting anything out. I was just like figuring out, or just like trying to, I don't know, see what I could do with it or what I wanted to do with it. And I was playing bass a lot more still at that time. But yeah, maybe after 6 months or like a year after school, I set the bass down for a while. And that's when I really started trying to write songs and like trying to produce my own music. Yeah.
What were your early influences?
I'm trying to think like what I was listening to, especially at that time. I mean, like tons of like indie rock stuff. Like I definitely wasn't making anything that sounded like that, but I've always been a real big fan of this guy named Dan Deacon, because he's like a composer and he also is like a crazy performer and does film scores and things like that. And I just feel that was what I wanted to be. Like I was looking at that and being like, I want to do a little bit of everything. I want to play live shows. I want to like score stuff. So he was a big influence, and I feel like Bon Iver was probably like the biggest influence maybe. Yeah, I remember like 22 A Million came out when I was a senior in college, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what, if I was going to try to make music, I want to attempt to make something that's like this, that has the similar feelings or sounds or something.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Can we talk about what your creative process looks like when you're writing a song? How? Because I've never written a song, so
Yeah.
I'm like, how does it work?
It's a mystery sometimes. I feel like there's a couple, actually I'll say like the thing that's been like the most, or the thing that I've held on to the most throughout any kind of musical practice is like improvisation for me. Did a lot of just free improv shows when I like came out of school playing bass, and that kind of translated into like how I explore like playing guitar and trying to find like the guitar parts for songs. But then yeah, you just make noise and things over top of what you're doing until like little chunks of words come out. It's like allowing yourself to just like whatever your first idea or whatever's channeling through you at that time, you just have to be there ready to capture it. And I think that's it. It's just like play and improvisation. And so I'll just start like, all right, I'll just play this chord progression over and try to sing and like that melody. And then your mouth just starts to make words. And then if you're really onto something, like the words just flow out. That's when it's like really good, I guess. Other times I write stuff and then I like try to force it into a song or do a lot of editing. But the songs that feel like the most like true, I feel come out in one swift take, because you're just opened up to something and you're like letting it out kind of instantaneously.
Does your process differ when you're writing music for yourself versus writing music for others or for other projects?
Totally. Yeah, because it's interesting because like in theater per se, I like to go to a lot of the rehearsals, even if it's like stuff that's not going to be performed live. I just want to know like what the vibe of what's going on, or like what the things that they're talking about are. So I like to just go and write down as much as I can, like what people are talking about in the room, because music is just so abstract in a way, and composing for theater has such like a crucial role. If you do it one way or the other, it changes everything. Especially I work mostly in like physical theater, so no words and stuff like that. So I have a lot of power. So I really need to know what they're feeling internally before I like put anything onto it. So yeah, I think for that, it's like I just take a bunch of notes. I just try to study what's going on in the room, because maybe the piece is set at Coney Island, but it's really about something darker or deeper, or it's not so much about being the setting with the music, it's about shaping the arc of the emotions of it. So yeah, I think that's really where I start most of the time, is I gotta work it out conceptually first.
Do you ever hear it in your head and then
Yeah,
translate it onto?
totally.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's like sometimes when I'm like in that process and I'm and I haven't brought anything to work with. Most of the time I'll bring my laptop and like a small keyboard so I can like get out a couple ideas if I have to in a quick way. But yeah, a lot of the times, like by the end of, or 2/3 through the rehearsal, I'm like, I know what I want to make for this. I can already hear it.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are your favorite themes or topics to write music about?
Right now, I think I've mostly, or maybe I have 2 or 3 songs that I've written recently that are about grief. I feel like that's, I don't know, something I've been carrying, or something that just, it's so hard to put words to, that like even the attempt of it is beautiful to me, or just, I don't know, even the attempt is like enough to communicate or get the conversation started about it. So that's quite a heavy topic, but I don't know, I just like it when I get into that mode of just like letting things kind of channel through. That seems to be what keeps coming up. So that's where I'm at with it. I don't know. At least that's for like Van Chan's, the more like folky stuff, which is what I've been writing for the most recently. Yeah.
It sounds like your songwriting allows you to kind of hold up a mirror to yourself and your subconscious.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like when I hear you talk about it. So that's really cool. It's like a self-discovery tool as well.
That's absolutely how I think of it. Yeah, exactly in those terms. Like it is when you're like trying to create something, just like staring into yourself. I don't always feel ownership of like things that I make, because when it's made in that way, it feels like somebody sent that to you, or like it's come to you through something else that like you've just like picked up on a transmission that was happening out in the world, and you're like, okay, I'm holding this now, and it's my duty to like share it with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ranch Hands. You also make music under the names Wet Hands.
Yeah.
Your own name, Jack McGuire,
Yeah.
and also a band that you're part of, FCTRYDRM.
Yeah.
So you have 4 different musical entities. I was hoping that you could walk us through the difference of among the 4 identities you have in music, and also what purpose does each serve for you in terms of creative expression.
Yeah. So the first one was Jack McGuire. I was like, I'm just going to be me. And to be fair, that's like the most veiled version of it. Like those songs are like so abstracted, and there's not a whole lot of like direct communication in them. I think it was just like, this is my first time doing this, and I'm afraid, and I don't really want to, and I'm struggling with the vulnerability aspect of it. So I want to put stuff out, but I don't know exactly. And I look back on those and they're fine. They're like not, I wouldn't play those songs for anybody maybe so much anymore. But then I moved on to being Wet Hands, which felt like I needed a sort of moniker, or like a mask in some way, to let it not be me personally. But by taking that pressure off, it also freed me up to be more vulnerable in the music, because it wasn't just, it's not me, it's this entity, it's this place that I can go and visit and inhabit and see what comes out of there. And yeah, I think the Wet Hands music for me is really that's really the more so for me than anything else in a way. Like it's where I do a lot of improvisation. That's where there's a lot of freedom in it. It's not really trying to be anything in particular. It's not really trying to be in a genre or something like that. It's just like, all right, what's going to come out of my head? What is it? What can it be? I don't try to put any sort of limitations on that music. Whereas Ranch Hands, I'm like, all right, I'm operating within a genre, which is helpful, I think. Like having a form, having some boundaries for what you can make is helpful in a way. And they're self-imposed rules, so like you can push up against them or do whatever. But that one, I think, if all of the projects are an experiment in some way, then like Ranch Hands, the experiment is like trying to be as directly communicative as possible. Here is exactly what I have to say, and I'm going to say it to you. I think that's really difficult, and I think, or it has been difficult for me, and I've seen that in the other music that I've made, that like that last step of the being vulnerable, of the really just being like, here's my innermost thoughts, whether you like it or not, is what has been like exciting or healing or inspiring for me in that. Yeah, and then FCTRYDRM meets in the middle in some ways. Like we have a pretty loose form of it being like rap or R&B, but like it's also, we're just experimenting. Like when Manic and I make that music, like we're just playing around. There's such a sense of play.
Manic is your partner in Factory Dream.
Yeah, he's the other person in there, and my roommate. And so we have a sort of shared studio space in our home. And so, yeah, when we make music in that, it's more of just an exploration, and it's a conversation between the two of us, because we're from a similar-ish place in the country. Like, we're both from Ohio and only an hour apart, but we're also very different, and like the music that we listen to is really different. And so it's like a conversation and a navigation of those kind of things, which is exciting too, because like I've grown so much by working in that way and collaborating and like hearing new things and like seeing what a song could be and having other people be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go back to your very first album that you released under Jack McGuire, because it's a huge accomplishment to create an album and release it. Or there's probably musicians listening that haven't done that and are like, oh, that sounds amazing. So I was curious if you could talk to me about what that process was like and any advice you have for people who are looking to make an album.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a tough time, because I made that it was a lockdown project in a way. So I was in my parents' basement, just like everybody else who was staying there, my brother and his wife now, and like my parents, like everybody like was working from home. And so I'm on unemployment. I lost my job. What am I doing? I'm going to make this album. I'm in the parents' basement doing that. And so it was really solitary in the way that I think if I could do it again, what I would say is get more people involved. It's a product of its time. It was made in lockdown. It was made in 2020. That's fine. But I think just have people around when you share. That's something I remember when we all lived together. It's like everybody could just share whatever they were doing, like pretty freely, pretty easily. You could have somebody come listen to something. And I think that's valuable. I think if you just make everything in a sort of vacuum of yourself and then put it out into the world, I think you might be somewhat disappointed. Not that I necessarily was disappointed by it, but I was just, I think it could have been better or could have been richer if other people were involved in it in some way, connected to it, or had heard it, or had given feedback, or like you had that sort of performance aspect of it, or in that moment, whether or not that song is any good or not. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's always the advice, I think, is just let people hear what you're doing before you just put it out, or get people's feedback, other musicians or just friends. Everybody's going to have something to say about it. Everyone's going to have it. And it's going to be a different way of thinking about it. And I think as you create things, that's like the value of it, or so valuable to the process. It's just, does it do what I intended to do? I'm trying to communicate something through this. And so did it actually work or not? Or what did you get out of it? And that might change something about what you do or how you're making it, or like where you're in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of the performance aspect of your music, I was curious about how does the visual components, so meaning music videos or album art or the live performance, how do those things factor into your creative process when you're making the music? Do you think about that, or do you just write the song, you like the collection of songs, feel the vibe and think, and then you imagine, okay, this is what it could look like in video form, or this is what it could look like live, or how does the visual aspects of all of this play a role?
Yeah. I always think about the live performance the most, because that was what my degree was, in performance. That's the thing that I've always been drawn to, is standing in front of people and playing this thing and seeing what happens and being surprised in it. And so I do think about it like in terms of the ranch hands, that was like a return to playing upright bass, because it was like aesthetically, this band is going to benefit from me playing upright bass. It's just going to give us a particular feeling. And so that was like an aesthetic choice. Like I could play electric bass on those songs and it would sound fine too. It like sonically, honestly, doesn't really matter. It's an aesthetic choice for me, and I think it like really sets us up in this way. Like when people see us play or see me play that instrument and sing, it's a unique thing. But like aside from that, like I feel like the album art I do for Wet Hands, I do that all for myself. Because I think about that music a lot as like collage, so I just make collages for the album artwork, and that feels just like fun and I would love to have other designers or artists do it at some point, but I don't know. I think there's something about just like keeping true to that feeling of it for me, Yeah, and I've made a couple of little music videos. Or my girlfriend made a video for the dog song
Which
and
stars
things.
Tati,
Yeah.
if anyone wants to look it up.
And see, that was a moment of let's get people involved in this. It's like, all right, do you have a dog? Yeah, loads of people do. Can you send us a video? And then everybody's got invested in a way. And so I think that's the thing is it's not just like getting people involved with like listening to it. It's just like getting people involved in like the making of it in some way. I think that gets more support around it. That builds like a network around it, which is powerful, which is what we need to do, which is the point of making it in a sense, like to build a community around something you're doing.
For sure.
But yeah, like visual aesthetics, like I don't think so much about. I'm not a very good social media person and all of that. I would love to do more of it, but I think I bog myself down in making too much stuff to give myself time to think about it or promote it in a nice way or whatever.
How do you know when a song is done?
Ooh, they're never done because I like think about it for live performance. Like that's the goal. It's like I can always play it differently. And like even if there's a recorded version and somebody like that's not how it's played on the recording, I'm like I don't care. Like I'm up here playing it, and maybe I want to play it a new way, or maybe I want to change the key of the song because my voice is changing or getting better. Or so I don't like. There's times where the recordings are done, but I think the songs are like alive. And I, especially with Wet Hands, when I set out to do that project, I never wanted to play the same thing twice, and so every show was completely different.
Oh, that's cool.
Even if it was the same songs, even if it was the same set list, I'd be like, all right, how do I change something in here? So, yeah, I don't think they're ever like, I never set one down and be like, this is perfect, this is amazing. But it's like, I've created my masterpiece. I did that one time, like when I was still like composing like capital C, composing like pen to paper type thing. I like wrote a piece that was like, there's a score, and I was like, I can't do any better than this. So then I was like, then I stopped doing that. So I don't want to do that ever again. I want everything to stay alive and continue on.
For sure. That's really cool. It's like you're in conversation with your own work.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that feels really good then too, because like when you go back and revisit something, you're like, oh wow, I did this. And maybe I could do it differently, or maybe it still feels good in that way. And like, I want to bring it into a sort of new context of the people I'm playing with now, or the sound of this band now, or whatever. So yeah, it is like it's like going back and reading your diary in some ways. Or, I don't know, you're just looking at yourself all the time. You're like, oh man, I didn't like how I did that then, or I really liked that performance. I want to get back to that kind of energy.
Yeah, for sure, because music is so powerful in terms of traveling through time. Like I know when I listen to albums that came out when I was a freshman in college, I'm immediately transported back to all those like crazy times and feelings, good and bad. And those aren't even songs that I wrote. So I can imagine as a musician going back and hearing music from certain periods of your life is a conversation with your past self in a way. That's really cool and interesting.
And I think like the more like abstract the song is, like over time it like reveals its meaning to you. There's songs that I've written and that I put out and I was like, oh, that's a good song. And I'm like, I don't really know what it's about for me yet. And I think that's a fun thing too, is it evolves with you as a person. And that's cool. You can change the meaning of it. It's like you're saying too, is okay, I have a memory of listening to this song in this place, and you can keep it there. You can make new memories with it by sharing it to people, or just find a new life for it. So
cool.
Yeah.
Do you ever experience writer's block or get into creative ruts?
Yeah, I think when I have too many, I'm trying to think how to put this. I think when I have like too much of like deadlines for things, sometimes I freeze. And I'm like, oh shit, like I got to get all this done, or I don't really know what I'm trying to say with it yet, but like there's the show that it needs to be in a month or whatever. And yeah, that's like really, I was never really good at school or good at like assignments or things like that. So like when things start to feel that way or have a really strict deadline, there's always a moment in there for me where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to do this. I'm going to just avoid it for a bit and then cram it at the last second and hope for the best. So yeah, I think it's just like that kind of freeze feeling. I don't know if it's like necessarily writer's block, but it's like something that gets in the way of the process for me that kind of feels like that. I just don't know what to do. Like any of those like sounds I had in my head start to get fuzzy or stop coming, or like stop being able to be communicated to what I'm trying to make.
Yeah. Do you have any activities or routines or exercises that you do just to get the juices flowing again?
Yeah, I think again it comes back to like improvisation. Then I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna set myself up whatever instrument I needed this to be for, or whatever setup I had. I'm just gonna forget what I was trying to make, and I'm just gonna play in this zone for half an hour or an hour. And just, I'm not going to record anything, I'm not going to commit to anything, but I'm just going to play until it starts to feel good, or I feel connected to this instrument or this like electronic setup or something. That usually helps. Because then I'm just like, okay, I'm excited by these sounds again. I could see where they could go. I've explored the different places where they could go. And that usually, okay, that takes a little bit of the pressure off. Because if I'm invested in this sound, if I'm invested in how, and am excited by what this sounds like, then it'll be easier to finish something and make something and show it to people and not be like afraid or scared that it's terrible or something, or it just doesn't fit the brief or something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Are there certain times of day or maybe places or environments where you feel most inspired and productive?
Yeah, like I do have a little home studio now, which has been good. I hadn't had maybe I've never had a dedicated space like that. And I struggle with that sometimes because it feels like, okay, if I'm going in there, I'm going to work. I'm like getting in there and I got to come out with something, or I got to make something. And as good as it feels to be in there, it's, I don't know, sometimes I get a little stuck. But a lot of the times where I'll record singing or record playing guitar is I'll just set it up and be like sat cross-legged in bed doing it. Because that's like where I play for myself. If I get up in the morning and I'm like, I want to play a song, I just pick up, I have a guitar next to my bed and I just pick it up and I sit on my bed and I play and I sing for however long, and that feels really good, and that feels like my place to just play. So yeah, I do. I'm also like really a night owl mostly, so yeah, I do make a lot of stuff on my laptop just in bed. So if I could have the whole studio set up in my bed, I think I would. That is like the most like free environment for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious if do you know the phrase like you have to learn the rules to break them? Mm-hmm. You were a classically trained bassist at the most prestigious music school, so you clearly learned all the quote unquote rules of music. But I'm curious, do you have any favorite rules that you like to break in your own music?
Favorite rules to break? I'm trying to think. Maybe there's a couple answers to this. Like, the first one was like when I came out of school, my style of bass playing was like absolutely not what they wanted it to be. It was like I was just making noise with it. I was like clipping things on the bass. I played with a foam fan, and I was just like, I can do all of the scales. I can play all these things. I can play with beautiful tone, whatever. But I just want to make something that sounds fucked up and aggressive, and was like, I think it was like my sort of angsty nature to just be like, nah, fuck all that. I'm going to do my own thing. You want me to play beautifully? I'm going to make the worst sound you've ever heard. You know? And I do those sounds. Like, it wasn't all angst. It was like, I was, again, just exploring what this instrument could do. Because, I'd spent so much time, like, trying to play it perfectly that I was like, what if I just play it? What can it do? What are sounds that this thing can make that people haven't really heard yet? I want to be surprised, like, when I'm playing by myself. And I think that's where like computer music or like electronic music is really, it's easier to do it in that context, because like you're just sending data to a computer, then the computer spits something out and you're like, okay, that's what it sounds like, sure. Versus playing an instrument that you've spent your whole life with, where you have some sense of here's the limitations of what it'll sound like. So I think that was like the first one, is just like everything doesn't have to be beautiful or perfectly placed or whatever. It can be a little rough, it can be however you like. Yeah, I feel like that's where I really just diverted immediately from everything I was trying to be taught. Yeah, and yeah, that just informs everything that I have done since then. It's just like, be surprised by it instead of having the pressure of everything has to be exactly like this and it's so measured out. I was like, what happens if my bow slips or this happens? And just like honor that. That was like something that a teacher told me in like a lesson about improvisation. If you play a wrong note or you make a mistake or a weird sound happens, just do it again, and then everybody will think you meant to do it. And I was like, that's my like golden rule for improvisation. Is if something weird happens or you make a new sound or something that you didn't intend to, do it again and see how that feels for yourself. So
I love that.
Yeah.
And I feel like what you're saying works on a metaphorical level for life.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just, oh, I made this mistake, but like, I'll just
We
keep
gotta roll
doing
with
that.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just let it be, like, own up to it. There isn't really like a mistake that you can make in music unless you've imposed that rule. So,
For sure. What are some things that you do differently now than when you were just starting out?
I think that I have like more clear goals, like when I'm like, for each sort of project that I'm working on or each name that I'm working under. Like I've really defined like for myself like what that is. And like originally I was just making stuff to like make things, and I was just trying to figure out what my voice in that would be. And I feel more confident that within these projects, like I know what I'm trying to do, or I know what I want to sound like or say. And that just comes with like the time and trying it out, and like then also giving yourself rules and breaking them or going back on them. So I think for me, it's just like this sort of clear like boundaries of the project, which before I just was like, I'm just going to make whatever I want and who cares? Like, I don't care if anybody listens to it, whatever. But now I'm like, okay, I want people to like care. I want people to be involved. I'm not just making this as like a self-serving thing. Like I want to be able to share it with people, and I want people to gain something from it, or at least just like witness me being vulnerable in some way and be moved by that or inspired by that. So I think it's like I'm thinking more about the audience than I did at the beginning. And there's like loads of like people who say, oh, you got to think about the audience last and things like that. And I have a hard time like understanding what that means, because I feel like I do care about my audience. I do care about the people who are going to listen to this. Not in a way where I'm like, I need to do everything for them, but just you need to consider them. They're going to be in the room. They're going to buy a ticket to your show. So, yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot more clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, when I first started making stuff, I just didn't know what I was doing. I was just like flying by the seat of my pants, and I was just like, this is going to be good because I made it, and I went to Juilliard, and I'm like, cool. And then you get out of school for a couple of years, and you're like, oh, yeah, no one really... People care. It's like a fun fact, but... And it was like a time of my life. But it's not going to put you ahead in some way just because you went there. You still need to like communicate something to your audience and give them something to latch on to and to like, I don't know, think about, or I don't know, feed them in some way.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, like the first gig that I got out of high school, out of college was that theater gig, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I said yes to it, and I was just, okay, I'm going to figure it out. And I was just like quietly in the corner, just like looking at everything that was happening and everything they were asking. I ended up doing like live Foley for that as well, like making all the sound effects. And I was just like, okay, sure. And I think it went really well. But in that moment, I was just like, it was like you either, whatever it is, swim or drown kind of thing. It's like you just got to do it. But yeah, I still feel that way a lot of times because I don't really know that much about theater. I don't really I just haven't studied it. I don't read plays. I've seen a lot of theater now. I've been lucky to like go to festivals to do it, but still in that world, I feel a bit like, why me? Like, why am I making this thing? Other than the people that are in it, I'm really close with and stuff like that. And I think I make good work in it. But yeah, I think it just took a long time to like really feel confident. And I'm only really now just getting there, feeling confident to speak in a room or share my ideas or like critique what's happening or be more involved in it versus just like if I'm in my little corner taking my notes and like I make something and then I like just present it at the last minute and they have to go with it. I feel like I got away with doing that in a way where like now I want to be more involved in the process. I want to share what I have to say because I feel like I feel like I've done it enough where up to that point I just hid away from it because I was just honestly a bit afraid or didn't feel like I knew enough to be in that room or have anything to say on the matter.
What helps you get past those feelings of self-doubt? It sounds like you've done it for a lot of years and that's helped, but is there any sort of, I don't know, mental exercise or anything else that has helped contribute to you feeling more confident?
I think it's just practicing. For me, it's like practicing voicing my opinion in those rooms or like being heard in those rooms a little bit. I never really liked like when you have to go around the room and read or something like that. I've always been so quiet in a way that like I think it's also that I hold myself back in a lot of situations, and that I think that also happens in like the professional world too, and not just like the personal world or my personal life. I think it was just like trying to throw myself into it and just be like, even if it was a bad idea or even if I just say something dumb, I'm like, I gotta try, because like I'm just sitting here if I'm not, and I'm just like in this world, and I'm not getting any closer to these people. I'm not getting any more connected to the project. I'm just doing it in my own little safe way. And I think it was like realizing that I was like, okay, what can I do? And there was only really one answer. It's just give it a shot, try, just speak up a little bit. I still don't do it all that much. So I'm not really like that good at it. Yeah, it's like advocate for yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. And being in a meeting room with a bunch of people and having to voice your opinion is so fucking scary.
Yeah.
Like when I was in the corporate world, yeah, I would have to do that sometimes. I would have to pitch stories and stuff like that. And I just remember I never felt confident. Came out of my mouth, I was like, you're so fucking stupid. They think you're so dumb. They hate you.
Yeah.
And it's so hard.
Yeah. And it's like, how do you stop? Because some parts of it is just like your negative self-talk about it. It's just, for me, it was always like, oh, no one's going to care about your idea. They're just going to be like, oh, like no one cares about what you think. You're just over there just doing that thing. And I was like, okay. And so it's like, how do you unlearn like that talk, the way that you're talking to yourself first?
Yeah.
Because you don't know if they're going to care or if they think you're stupid or not until you give them a reason to, or like you try. So I think that was it for me. I was like, I was just taking away any opportunity for the connection or for the trying to say something, and as a way to just keep myself safe and make myself seem, oh, he knows what he's doing. Like he's just off on his own. He's got this. He doesn't need anything. I was like, but I did need a lot of things and I just didn't ask for them. I think that's, yeah, where I like held myself back a lot.
Yeah, I love how you vocalize it in a way where you're like, no, it's like preventing people from getting to know me. Because I think that's a really like emotionally intelligent way to think about it. Because I think when I was really quiet in those rooms, I inadvertently came off as really standoffish. And I didn't mean to be. It was just like there's war going on inside my head. So it's not like I was disengaged or, didn't care. But I think that maybe my lack of vocalness maybe presented that way in some instances. So I loved how you framed it. And like people want to connect with me, you know?
I'm in this room for a reason. I got here, so like...
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is your definition of success right now?
I think my definition of success for me is just like having the space to create things, to just keep making and having those things be heard by people, and whether that's like in a performance or like online if people stream stuff, or there's not really a quantifiable thing that I'm after, I guess, right now. If I didn't really get into this for money, like there was some amount of, if you played in an orchestra, you'll make good money, whatever. But I didn't really get into it for that, I guess. I just like I said, I never thought about doing anything different. So like the success in it for me is that I just get to create on a daily basis or semi-regular basis, and that I can show that work to people and that people are like finding me through that, or that I'm connecting to people through it. Like when I play a show to strangers and people come up and they like ask me about songs, and they ask me about or say that they really connected with what I was saying, and that's the win. That's what feeds me and keeps me going in it. There's not really... Yeah, I would love if people paid me more for this stuff, or like I didn't have to work other random jobs or whatever, but I get to make music most days and play music, and I feel like I've found a really healthy relationship to creating, and I don't want to disturb that too much. And I think putting too much pressure on it, that like I need to be a certain thing or have a certain career in it or make certain content for it, I'm like, I think that might disrupt my relationship to it. And so I think I'm okay to just keep making and putting it out in the way that I am, and it's little by little it gets bigger, or the people who find it become more.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there something that you haven't done yet in music that you want to try in the future?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would like to be like an opener on a tour or something like that. I like to travel around. I like when people pay me to travel around. And if I could do that while I was playing my songs, cool. And it'd be cool to just see different places, go somewhere new, and play for new people. If I could play a show every day of the year, I probably would in some way. It'd be exhausting. But like I just have such a desire to do that, to just be, I don't know, going out there and just like playing to whoever will listen. And yeah, like finding your audience by going to them, because like they're not going to just find you somehow. So that's like a big thing for me. I'd love to be like an opener on a tour or do my own tour or something like that. Yeah, and maybe like record something like full band in a studio environment or something, like really have everybody together and do it all in one take. I think that would be fun too, if there was the budget for that kind of thing. So that's your plan. Yeah.
How do you define creativity?
Oh, let's see. I don't know. It's just like everybody has it in some ways. Everybody approaches things in their own unique way. And that's where creativity like lies. I approach music in one particular way, and the musician next to me would do it in a different way. And it's not so much about, I don't know, the particulars of the sounds or the genres or this or that. It's just like all the little things that like make up who you are and like make up like how you make decisions or how you think about things. Because creativity also is like in like your day to day and like how you problem solve or how you like your conflict resolution or whatever. It's in everything. It's just in the way that you think and communicate to people. So I think everybody has it. It's just like, how do you tap into it? How do you get into that space where you can like let it flow through you and not hold it back for yourself? I don't know if that's like a really concrete definition or if that's just like a ramble, but yeah, I don't think it's one thing. It's everybody's got their own creativity. That's just like everything. It's your fourth grade teacher telling you not to be a comedian or like whatever else. It's everything. And then you find a sense of humor in it or whatever. So I think that's like where it comes from. And it's just like allowing yourself to do something with it, you know?
Yeah. All right. Jack, are you ready to move into the lightning round?
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
What is something new that you've tried lately?
Something new that I've tried lately?
Could be anything. It doesn't have to be related to anything we talked about.
I feel like I had something. I got my banjo back and I've been trying to play banjo.
Nice.
It's going okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are banjos strung the same as guitars?
No.
No? What are the strings on a banjo?
It's like an open G chord somehow.
Oh,
It just
interesting.
so you could just strum it without putting your like fingers on it and it sounds okay.
Oh.
So I have no idea where like any of the notes are yet. It's not like bass or violin where like I can find stuff. It's just like its own random other thing.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
So
Are you going to incorporate that into some ranch hands music?
yeah, I'd like to,
Yeah.
but I need to practice that thing.
Love it. Do you have a lesson or a message that you want to share with listeners?
Message or lesson? Hi.
Tati, she's being very rude.
Oh, hi. Yeah. I think the lesson of just like honoring your mistakes as intentions is like the thing, one of the most like eye-opening things that I've learned or been taught. That practice of just there's only rules of what you're doing if you impose them, I think can be freeing and can be constrictive or anywhere in between. So yeah, I think just don't forget about play. Let yourself just be funny or silly or wild or whatever you need it to be before.
Oh my God, Tati.
Hi, Tati. Yeah, be like a little dog running around. Just the more pressure you put on the sort of process of it, it can get in the way.
Oh my God. For listeners, my dog just jumped on Jack's lap and I can literally hear her licking you through my head.
I know. You just want to be a part of it all.
Tati wants to be interviewed.
Oh, yeah,
I love that. And I think that's such an important lesson for musicians who come from a very strict background. Because I think if I had more play in violin, I would have enjoyed it more instead of, were you a Suzuki kid?
I wasn't, but I knew a lot of people.
Okay, Suzuki is like the fucking like army.
Yeah.
Like it's like so
intense.
intense. Yeah. And I think that's what really ruined it for me because I think I really enjoyed playing violin. And I remember I went to violin camp or it was orchestra camp and my friends and I, it was the first time I was introduced to doing covers of pop songs.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't know you could play those on the violin.
Yeah.
I literally thought violins are only made to play music written in the 1700s.
Yeah.
But I remember at orchestra camp, they were doing covers of Bad Romance by Lady Gaga. And I was like, I could play this on the violin. It just never occurred to me. And so I think had I had more play, it would have been a lot more enjoyable and I wouldn't have fought my parents so hard to let me quit orchestra.
It just opens you up to be like, oh, what sounds interesting to me or what direction do I want to go with this? And I think more teachers or educators need to like bring that into the curriculums too, just let kids find their way a little bit too. And encourage and excite themselves about things.
Absolutely. What is one thing you wish you knew when you were first starting out?
That I would like, I think, I don't know, that it doesn't all have to be so so on your own. Especially like in my education, it was just like practice on your own in a room by yourself for however many hours a day. Again, get people involved, be with other people, try to be invested more in your community. It's not just a solitary pursuit. And I think I didn't connect with so many people in my time at school for a variety of reasons, but also just because I was like, I'm here to do this thing and it's about me, but it's also about everybody else. And it's about how you connect with them and how you share yourself with them. So just remember that you're not doing this on your own or in a vacuum or something.
Could you give our listeners a recommendation?
Oh, okay.
It could be for literally anything. It doesn't have to be related to anything.
I read a really good book recently that's by Brené Brown. It's called The Gifts of Imperfection. Highly recommend. Yeah, just about accepting yourself and your imperfections and what you want to work on, or that they're gifts and that you're unique because of them.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Jack, could you tell us where can people find you and listen to all your music and check out all your work?
Yeah, so it's everywhere. Anywhere you want to stream it. Preferably if you want to buy it on Bandcamp, you can send me money directly that way. It's under Wet Hands or Ranch Hands on all streaming stuff. Ranch Hands is folky, Wet Hands is some electronic kind of noisy things. And FCTRYDRM is also in all of those places. Yeah, I'm on Instagram as wet__hands. And yeah, I play shows around, and I do so far sound shows too. So if you ever want to go to one of those that I'm playing, let me know. I'm doing things.
Yeah. Do you have any upcoming shows you want to plug?
Not at the moment. I should hear back about a couple soon. So I'm finishing up a whole album, so I want to have some kind of release show for that.
Oh,
that we're
that's
working.
exciting.
Yeah, that we're working towards. So hopefully that'll come together. So
when does your new album come out?
Don't have a date for that yet.
Okay, when you figure it out, I will make sure to post it.
Amazing.
In conjunction with this and give you a little promo.
Thank
hopefully.
you. Thank you.
All right, Jack, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Wait, don't stop recording.
What? John just arrived. What's up?
I just swam 3 miles to get here. I heard, Tati, be quiet. We were in the wilderness. Earlier when they talked about how they met, I was there. Tati,
it was this.
I was leading this phone call with Jack and Waverly. And it was the middle of the pandemic. They were the final round interviews. And I said, and I quote, "We have backup dates to prom, but you're who we'd ideally like to go with." And Waverly, I knew you were already in. But Jack, you were on the fence. You said, it's out of pocket, but Buck, this is a good opportunity. And I think...
Direct quote, yeah.
That's it. I'm going to swim back now. Come on, Tati.
All right, on that note, thank you for coming on, Jack.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. Thank you so much for listening. Here are 3 ways you can support the show for free. You can follow the show on Instagram at Version1Podcast and subscribe to our Substack, version1podcast.substack.com, and you can also find me on buymeacoffee.com/Waverly Colville. You can leave a review on whatever app you're listening to this on and rate us 5 stars, and you can send this episode to a friend. New episodes every Tuesday. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.